Hello everyone and welcome back to another video series. So in this particular video we are going to cover a very important topic which many of you were asking me about on my LinkedIn and my Instagram. So in this particular video whatever we will be covering that will be beneficial first of all for uh, early experienced professional like below 3 or 4 years you can say, and also for the freshers. So if we are going beyond 4 5 years you must be having a particular skill set that you are following, but mainly if you are below 4 years of experience, then if you want to change your tech stack or technology you can do that because it is easy to change your tech stack before 4 or 5. I cannot say that you cannot change it beyond 4 or 5, but it is easy, relatively very easy to change your tech stack below 4 years of experience, because if you go beyond 4 years of experience it requires a very in-depth knowledge in that particular field, whatever technology that you are choosing, so it would be very hard to switch the technology. So without any further delay, what we are going to focus today is the full stack roadmap. So full stack roadmap we will be discussing step by step, and for that I have created a document. So this particular document cover the technologies that can be used to create the front end technology, back end technology, and the database technology. So these three generally combines, and if you have the knowledge of these three technologies, then you can say you are a full stack developer. So let's take an example of a particular website. Let's take an example of YouTube. So whatever you are seeing currently, this is an UI interface. So here whatever you are seeing, it's called UI, and the developers generally who develop this are called front end developers or the UI developers. Okay, so the technology that is used in this front end, and also before we jump directly into the technologies, for example if I click on this particular video it must be rendering these details from somewhere, right? So when we click on something and it connects to something different, for example let me just inspect and show you what happens if I click on something. Okay, let me go to the network tab and open the details. Okay, so let's take an example. If I, not this one, let me go back to this. So as soon as I click on popular, see it is calling something behind the scene. See, it is making a request to this particular URL, and it is a post request. So that means it is trying to fetch some details, and from where it is trying to fetch the details? From the backend. So we have some API in the backend from which it is fetching the details. Okay, so on the backend side basically there are APIs available which provides the details. Okay, so again the developers who create those APIs and the technology that is used, those developers are called backend developers, and those technologies are called backend technologies. Now again from the backend side, obviously there are some database where the data are stored, whether it's related to user or the normal data. So those are called the database technologies. So let me quickly open the Word file that I've created and see. First thing, if you want to uh, really deep dive into full stack roadmap, you should have a better knowledge of front end, back end, database, and also the Git. We'll be discussing what all these technologies are. I have all these things explained here, but before that, if you want to go ahead and choose only one field like the front end developer, so you can just like separate out these three things separately, and you can excel in this particular technology and you can become a front end developer. A similar way, if you want to excel in backend technologies, and then you can become a backend developer. And again, we also have database engineers, so they are mainly very good at database technologies. So those things can be separated out, and if combinedly you have all three knowledge, then you can say you are a full stack developer. So let's talk about the front end technology first. So mainly on the front end side, we are the popular ID that we generally use are VS Code. So it's a very popular ID that is being used currently in the market. So you can start with this VS Code IDE. You can get familiar with the VS Code, and the very basic technology or the language that you can learn is first of all the HTML. So why we use HTML is obviously it's a like normal hypertext language. It's not a programming language. So if you know HTML, you cannot say you're a programmer, but HTML is a hypertext programming language. Sorry, hypertext markup language, not a programming language. Okay, and it is generally used to create the look and like how the web page will what are the text and what are the formattings on all will be there on the page. That information mainly you can show using the HTML. Now css basically is again a different technology which generally is used to provide some stylings on your content. So again, you can deep dive using these technology name, you can search and you can find multiple resources on YouTube on or any tutorial that you can follow. Then comes the JavaScript. So JavaScript is again a very important one, and these three are the core of your front end technology. That means you must know all these three technology at least. So JavaScript again is a scripting language. It's not a markup language like HTML, but it's a scripting language which generally is used if you want to do something dynamically on your web page. So for that interactive behavior, we generally use JavaScript. Now there are different frameworks in the market which is being used. So the mainly there are many actually. I have mentioned only two because the market capture of these two frameworks is mainly very high. We have Angular first, and React JS is currently very popular. Angular also has a very big market currently because existing projects are available mainly on Angular, and people are now started using React. So there are, you can say it's a equal or little bit difference in between those, but these two are very famous. We also have different ones like Vue.js and all others, but you can fundamentally focus on React or Angular. You can choose any framework. If you are starting newly, I would recommend that you go ahead with React.js. So but before that you have to complete these three and then you go ahead with React.js. So this is all about. I'm not putting too many technologies so that you get confused, because when I was searching, when I was preparing before my degree, I was in college. So I used to search a lot and I used to get multiple technologies and I used to get confused. So that is why I am keeping it simple, and I have kept only the technology that is required and it is mandatory. Then moving to the backend technology. So again, IDE is where you generally do the coding and wherever you write those codes. So IDE again, it's called integrated development environment. So the mainly in markets currently, Eclipse and IntelliJ is the most popular one for the backend. And here we are for the backend technology, we are focusing on Java specific, Java related backend technology and related environments. So uh, mainly first when you are starting, you have to focus on core Java. So I have mentioned all the topics that you can learn in core Java, and then once you are familiar with core Java and you are very good, then you can move to advanced Java. I have not mentioned here advanced Java, but if even if we are not familiar with advanced Java, you can start with Spring framework. But obviously it is better that you can go ahead with, once you are done with core Java, you can go ahead with advanced Java as well. Then we have Spring framework. So Spring framework, there are two ways to learn. Either you can learn Spring all together. There are different parts of Spring framework like Spring Core, Spring MVC, Spring Security. So I would recommend that you just get a basic idea of a Spring framework, what are all the things it does, and then you can directly jump into the Spring Boot. And whatever in future, whatever is required for you, like Spring Security and all is required for you, you can learn side by side. But for the starting point, you can just get understanding of Spring framework, few terms like dependency injection, auto wiring, bean lifecycle, all these things you can get an idea. And then you can start with Spring Boot, and then you can learn how to create an API and all those things. Then we have Hibernate. So Hibernate is a ORM solution provided. So what it does is, see, if we have a database, so we have to have a object relation mapping. So suppose if in database we have some data available, so to fetch those data we need to have some mapping. right? So we have some object in Java. Once you will be familiar with Java, you will know what object is. So you need to map those objects in the database. So for that we need a framework. So we have others as well, but Hibernate is the most famous framework available. So it's a ORM solution basically. So it's a object relation mapping. So and Hibernate is basically following the JPA. So JPA is nothing but the Java Persistent API. So it is following the principle of JPA. So you can use Hibernate. It is very familiar, and if there is any other choice that you want, but I would suggest that you go ahead with Hibernate framework. Then comes the database technology. So again, database, we need not to know much about the database. Just a simple query language will be fine, and whatever the like language that you want. Mainly it is having the popular one are MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Oracle. So but mainly people are using MySQL and PostgreSQL so as well. So if you want to go ahead and learn something different, that will also be fine. But I would recommend you start with MySQL because it is the primarily basic query language, and all the languages are similar to this. Only there are basic few changes. So you can start with MySQL, learn basic query about MySQL, and what are all the clauses available in that MySQL, select where, how to use those, how the tables structures are available, what are all the different way to fetch the queries and all those things. So once you are familiar with that, then one more thing that you need to learn is the version control system. So why this is important, and the very famous version control system we have available is Git. So why Git is important? For example, if you're working on some code logic and you need to push some that particular code in some repository. So for example, if you're working in a multinational company, so it's a big project, and there are multiple people working in that project. So that code needs to be there somewhere, right? So for that we need to use this. So yeah, that is all we need for now. I hope it is helpful for you, and I will attach this particular document as well, so you can refer that. So if there is anything else that you guys want to know, let me know. I will try to answer that in comment section. So that is all from my end. Thank you so much.